Springfield, Illinois. A cold-blooded and brutal murder, the Winger family case. Donnah and Mark Winger's love story began in early 1988 when they met on a blind date. The young couple instantly hit it off and started dating. Just 6 months later, Mark proposed, and the pair tied the knot in March 1989. At the time of their wedding, Donnah was 25, and Mark was 26. After exchanging vows, the newlyweds settled in Springfield, Illinois. Mark worked as an engineer at a nuclear power plant, while Donnah was employed as an operating room nurse. The Wingers were seen as an exemplary and successful couple, admired by their community. They seemed perfectly matched for each other. The couple dreamed of having children, but, unfortunately, as the years passed, Donnah, now in her 30s, was unable to conceive. Doctors delivered a devastating diagnosis: infertility. Mark and Donnah were heartbroken, refusing to accept that their home would never be filled with the laughter of children. In 1995, Donnah's gynecologist informed her of a young patient who was about to give birth to an unwanted child and planned to give the baby up for adoption. The gynecologist suggested that the infertile Donnah take the newborn and shower the child with love and affection. Donnah agreed, and Mark supported his wife in this difficult decision. On June 1, 1995, Mark and Donnah Winger became parents to a little girl named Bailey Elizabeth. At that time, Donnah frequently visited her mother and stepfather, who lived in Florida. In August 1995, she spent several days with Bailey at her relative's place before flying back home. On August 23, when the plane landed at St. Louis International Airport in Missouri, Donnah called a taxi to take her to Springfield. That ride would prove to be fateful for the young mother. The taxi driver was a young man named Roger Harrington. Throughout the hour-and-a-half journey, the taxi driver exceeded the speed limit, was inattentive, and talked excessively. Roger confessed that while driving, he often spoke with a godlike spirit named Dom. The young man claimed that sometimes, when he got behind the wheel, this spirit would come to him, pull him out of his body, and take him flying high above the trees in his car. Roger also tried to flirt with Donnah, insisting that he loved older women and inviting her to participate in one of the swinger parties he frequently hosted at his apartment. After an hour and a half, the taxi finally arrived at the Winger family home. Donnah felt an incredible sense of relief, having spent the entire trip on edge. Entering the house with Bailey in her arms, Donnah immediately told her husband about the unpleasant ride, and later wrote about the experience in her personal diary. Mark was displeased with the situation and filed a complaint with the company where Roger Harrington worked. Soon after, the young employee lost his job. 6 days passed. On August 29, 1995, 32-year-old Mark Winger was exercising on a treadmill in the basement of his home when he suddenly heard a dull thud upstairs. Alarmed, he rushed to the nursery on the second floor to check on little Bailey. Fortunately, she was sleeping peacefully in her crib. After ensuring his daughter was safe, Mark noticed that his wife, Donnah, was not with their child. This seemed strange to him. Mark dashed into the master bedroom, grabbed a gun, and descended to the first floor. As he walked down the hallway, he heard unfamiliar sounds coming from the kitchen and headed in that direction. There, Mark witnessed a horrific scene. His wife, Donnah, lay motionless on the floor, with a young man standing over her, a hammer in his hand, ready to strike again. Mark took aim and fired at the stranger, who turned to face him, intending to attack the homeowner. Mark pulled the trigger a second time, and the assailant fell to the floor. At 4:27 p.m., a call came into the 911 dispatch. Mark Winger reported that he had shot a stranger who had attacked his wife in their home. As he held the phone, Mark rushed to his wife but heard the injured man next to her begin to groan in pain. Enraged, Mark grabbed the hammer and delivered several blows to the wounded criminal's chest. When the police arrived at the crime scene, they found 31-year-old Donnah Winger in critical condition. She had been struck in the head with a hammer at least 7 times. The pulse of the attacker was barely detectable, but he too was still alive. Before paramedics took the injured individuals to the hospital, one of the officers took several Polaroid photos of the scene, capturing the positions of Donnah and her assailants' bodies. The attacker died shortly after arriving at the hospital, while Donnah passed away en route. She never regained consciousness and was unable to recount what had transpired in their home. Detective Charlie Cox, assigned to investigate the case, first questioned Mark Winger. Mark confirmed that the .45 caliber pistol found in the house belonged to him and was the weapon he had used to shoot the assailant who had attacked Donnah. When asked about the hammer, Mark stated that he knew the tool had been lying on their kitchen table. Donnah had left it there as a reminder for her husband to hang up a hat rack. Mark inquired about the criminal's identity, but the detective remained silent. Mark then asked if the man was Roger Harrington. Upon receiving an affirmative response, Mark exclaimed, "Oh my God, that's the guy who's been harassing my wife for the past week." He recounted his wife's recent taxi ride from the airport. The driver had greatly frightened her, but the matter didn't end there. Over the course of 6 days, she received several strange phone calls and was convinced that Roger was the one calling her. Investigators discovered the diary of the deceased Donnah Winger, in which they read a description of that fateful taxi ride. Mark also informed them that he had called the company where Roger worked, leading to the driver's dismissal. Perhaps this was why the taxi driver had decided to take revenge on them. Mark Winger was certain that he would be charged with taking Roger Harrington's life and was deeply worried. But in reality, the police considered him a victim. The investigation at the crime scene confirmed this. In Roger's car, parked near the Winger home, they found a knife, a tire iron, and a note containing Mark's full name, home address, and the time 4:30 when the crime occurred. Moreover, it was revealed that Roger had undergone treatment at a psychiatric clinic several years prior. Additionally, Detective Charlie Cox had previously encountered the young man when he had gotten into a fight with his wife. "You stopped a criminal who wanted to take your wife's life. You're a real hero," Detective Cox confidently told Mark Winger. The day after the crime, the prosecutor announced that Mark had acted in self-defense and that no charges would be brought against him. The case was closed. Donnah's deceased parents were shocked by the events and supported their son-in-law, now a widower, as best they could. The entire community of Springfield rallied to help the single father who had lost his beloved wife and Bailey's mother. Everyone believed he was an excellent family man whose life had been shattered by some crazy taxi driver. Everyone except the Harrington family. Knowing Roger better than anyone else, his sister Barbara told the police that her brother would never have committed such a brutal act. She begged the detectives to reopen the investigation but was refused. Roger's mother, Helen, was afraid to go outside, as the whole town believed she had raised a criminal and a psychopath. The entire Harrington family grieved quietly, convinced that no one would support them. However, they were not alone in their doubts. Detective Doug Williamson, who was also involved in the case, had some suspicions. In his opinion, something didn't add up in the version of events described by Mark Winger. But aside from Williamson, no one else wanted to delve into this seemingly clear-cut incident. The detective was denied permission by the chief of police to continue the investigation, and the case remained closed. After Donnah's passing, Mark continued to care for their adopted daughter Bailey, but managing everything alone became increasingly difficult. Therefore, 5 months after his wife's death, the widower hired a helper and nanny named Rebecca Simic. Mark and Rebecca fell in love, and soon the woman discovered she was pregnant. 9 months later, the couple welcomed a daughter, Anna. Almost immediately after, the newly minted parents got married. A year later, Mark sold the house and severed all ties with his late wife Donna's family. He, along with Rebecca, Bailey, and Anna, moved to a suburb of Springfield. Later, 2 more children were born into their family, Maggie and Ben. Their life would have continued on its course if not for the confession of Donna's close friend, Donnah Schultz. For 4 years, Donnah had kept a secret that caused her anxiety and was tearing her apart from the inside. Eventually, the woman couldn't take it anymore and went to the police. She revealed that she and Mark Winger had a secret affair that began several months before Donna's death and continued for a few weeks after her passing. Donnah claimed that Mark so desperately wanted to end the marriage that he once said it would be much easier for them to be together if Donnah simply ceased to exist. Donnah also stated that Mark had carefully considered options for getting rid of his wife, and had even suggested that his mistress become a participant in the plot. He couldn't simply divorce her as he feared losing his adopted daughter. By this time, Detective Charlie Cox no longer felt absolute certainty about Mark's innocence. Doubts had emerged from the moment when, a few months after Donna's funeral, Mark came to the police station and asked for his gun back. At that point, he inquired if the detective had any new information on the case. Detective Cox found this question strange, as the investigation had long been terminated. The second time Mark visited the detective was to inform him that he was marrying his daughter's nanny. Mark continued to drop by the police station, and Detective Cox realized that the widower was trying to find out if law enforcement was conducting any further inquiries. Following the confession of Donna's close friend, Mark Winger was again called into the police. The man did not deny that he had indeed cheated on the side, but he called Dana Schultz's other accusations a terrible lie. "I was a good husband to Donna," Winger declared. "I made a mistake when I started cheating on my wife with her friend. It was stupid and wrong, but I'm only human, and people are prone to making mistakes." Mark also admitted that he had questioned Detective Cox about his deceased wife, but despite all of the man's denials, the investigation was officially reopened in 1999. Investigators soon discovered that in the 4 years since the murder, some materials had gone missing. However, photographs of Donna and Roger, taken with an old Polaroid on that fateful day, were found. The positions of the bodies in the images did not correspond to what Mark had described during questioning. Later, Detective Charlie Cox stated that these photographs had not been preliminarily examined due to him not even knowing of their existence. In the photos, Donna was lying face down, although her husband had recounted holding his wife in his arms and trying to help. Making the painful admission that they had failed to investigate in 1995, the police resumed their work with incredible zeal. The detectives found more and more incriminating evidence. Roger's neighbor, Susan Collins, revealed that she had heard Roger making arrangements to meet with someone the day before the incident. This explained the contents of the note found in the taxi driver's car. Susan added that Roger had told her about the upcoming meeting with Mark. He had agreed to go to him to sort everything out, including the situation with his dismissal. The young man left the house at 3:30 p.m. Roger had a knife and a tire iron in his car. If he had planned to commit murder in advance, why didn't he take any of these items with him, instead of using a hammer that happened to be at hand? During the 911 call, Mark Winger said that an unknown man had attacked his wife, yet he himself named the deceased to the police. The owner of the taxi company reported that during the call, Mark had complained about the driver and demanded a personal meeting with Roger. Usually, clients don't act this way. They simply report their complaints to management. But Mark insisted on a meeting. Roger himself wanted to sort things out, so he asked his boss to give the caller his phone number. A forensic expert concluded that the blood spatter on Mark's clothing was consistent with the assumption that he was the one who had struck the hammer blows. No traces of Donna's blood were found on Roger Harrington's clothing. The entry in the woman's diary about the strange taxi ride was made in handwriting similar to Donna's. It turned out that this note was not written by her hand. An expert confirmed that it was Mark's handwriting. 6 years after the murder in 2001, Mark Winger was arrested and jailed pending trial. Detective Charlie Cox, who had once called him a hero, was now fully determined to prove that Mark was a cold-blooded criminal. A new theory emerged. The unpleasant ride Donna had with Roger inspired Mark to plan his wife's murder, and at the same time, the murder of the taxi driver, to make the whole story seem more plausible. Donna's parents understood that the evidence against their former son-in-law was convincing, but still hoped that he would somehow be acquitted. They refused to believe that he was the one who committed the murder. After 13 hours of deliberation, the jury returned a verdict. Mark Winger was found guilty of taking the lives of 2 people, Donna Winger and Roger Harrington. In August 2002, he was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. The convicted man never admitted his guilt. 4 years later, in 2006, inmate Mark Winger was charged with attempting to hire another inmate to commit 2 more serious crimes. Mark tried to persuade his cellmate, Terry Hubble, to help him kill Donnah's friend Dana Schultz for testifying against him. Mark also wanted to punish Jeffrey Gelman, his childhood friend, for refusing to post a $1 million bail for him at the time of his arrest. In Mark's cell, law enforcement officers found 19 handwritten pages outlining a plan of action. The man wanted his cellmate, using his criminal underworld connections, to arrange the kidnapping of his childhood friend Jeffrey Gelman and demand a ransom from his family. Once the money was received, Mark would order Jeffrey's murder and with that same money, hire an assassin to take Dana Schultz's life. But before that, he would force her to write a statement claiming that she had slandered Mark Winger and that he was actually innocent. The devious plot failed, and in June 2007, Mark Winger again found himself in the dock. Mark pleaded guilty, claiming that the writings merely outlined his fantasy, which he never intended to carry out. However, he was found guilty of inciting the kidnapping and murder of several people and sentenced to 35 years in prison, in addition to his existing life sentence. It is known that Mark's second wife, Rebecca, divorced him immediately after his imprisonment. She reclaimed her maiden name, Simic, and officially adopted Bailey, Mark, and Donnah's adopted daughter. Initially, Rebecca moved in with her biological brother. She had no home, no money, and no benefits. When the woman improved her financial situation, she bought a house for herself and her children and raised her daughters and son alone. Rebecca and her children joined the Southeastern Christian Church. Now, the woman works, has a decent income, but has never remarried. In one of her latest interviews in 2021, Rebecca admitted, "When Mark went to prison, I felt humiliated. I was embarrassed and ashamed, even though I hadn't done anything wrong. Now Mark is alive, but he is dead to me and my family.